Hello students, a very good morning to you. Today we will continue our chapter 2nd of class 12, that is sexual reproduction in plants. In our previous class we have studied about the fertilization event, in which we saw that how double fertilization and triple fusion occurs and what is the result of double fertilization. The result of double fertilization was formation of zygote and primary endosperm nucleus. Today we will proceed this topic, means we will study about post fertilization event, in which we know that what is the role of zygote and PEN. Means in post fertilization event we will study about the process of embryogenesis. Before we know about more something embryogenesis, let's know about endosperm. So as we know, endosperm is the reserve food material that is present in the seed and which provides nutrition to the growing embryo. Whether that embryo remains persist in the life of that seed or whether it is consumed by the seed during its embryogenesis process. So on this basis, the endosperm is divided into two types. One is your endospermous seed and another is non-endospermous seed. So what does the endospermous and non-endospermous means? Endospermous means when the endosperm persists in the seed after its maturation. Clear? And non-endospermous means when there is no residual endosperm is left. Means some plants during their embryogenesis process consume the endosperm that present in the seed, and some plants will not consume all the endosperms that present in the seeds. That's why they are considered as endospermous and non-endospermous. Endospermous means when endosperm left, and non-endospermous means when there is no endosperm, means completely consumed by the embryogenesis process by the seed. So we can take the example of endospermous, all monocots. You know about in monocots the species of grass families are come, and in grass family we know that rice, maize, wheat are come under this. So the endospermous seeds are shown by or presented by the monocots, whereas the non-endospermous seed is represented by the dicots. Means we can take the example of groundnut and pea. You know what is monocot and what is dicot. In monocot, when there is a single cotyledon is arise during the process of embryogenesis, and in dicot when double cotyledon is arise during the process of embryogenesis. So on this basis they are divided. Again, some seeds like your coconut, if we consider about coconut, you know about coconut, the tender coconut water, which is a best drink, good health drink that we take in summer. That tender coconut water is just the pre-nuclear endosperm. Means there after karyokinesis no cytokinesis occurs, due to which the nucleus are freely move inside the seed. That's why the tender coconut water, remember students, the tender coconut water is nuclear endosperm, means pre-nuclear endosperm, whereas the white kernel means if you see the coconut which is looks like this, in this the water is nuclear endosperm and the white kernel which is white kernel, the white kernel is pre-cellular or cellular endosperm. So on this basis we can also define as the endosperm is also two types, means cellular endosperm and nuclear endosperm, which we can see in coconut. Clear students? So next, in non-endospermous, as I have told you, groundnut and pea, like this black grams which is called your chana, then peas, etc. They all are dicots. That's why when they start germinate, they consume the endosperm present in it. So in this basis we can differentiate endospermous and non-endospermous seeds. Clear students? Again here one thing you have to remember, that after double fertilization the PEN get converted into PEC, means primary endosperm nucleus get converted into primary endosperm cell during the process of embryogenesis. Means during double fertilization cytokinesis is not just follow karyokinesis. As a result, the PEN remains the free nucleus inside the seed, and that will start division. Means division of cytoplasm will occur when embryogenesis takes place. So you can say that nuclear division occur in the fertilization event, whereas cellular division occur in the post-fertilization events. That's why PEN get converted into PEC, due to which the cell wall formation occurs. So next we will study is embryogenesis. As we know, the seeds are divided into two types on the basis of their means they bear the cotyledons. Means one is monocot and another is dicot. So after the seed formation, when that seed gets germinate, then what parts we will see in it? Means there is a great difference between seed and between the embryo. Seed is just the starter of the embryo. So here is the diagram. This represents the dicot embryo, whereas this represents the monocot embryo. Let's see what are the differences between the dicot embryo and the monocot embryo. Here you can see this part is called as plumule. You know, plumule represent the future shoot. This part is the cotyledon. As we know, cotyledons are the fleshy material that present in the plant which provides nutrition. Next is your radicle. Radicle is called as future root. This will get converted into root in the embryo, and this will get converted into shoot in the embryo. This part gives nutrition to the embryo, and this is root cap which protects the root from external injury during its growth in the direction of soil. And this represents the monocot seed. Here is the scutellum. Scutellum represents the cotyledons. Means in dicot embryo we will say this is cotyledon, whereas in monocot we will say as scutellum. This is the main difference. Scutellum is represented by cotyledons in dicots, or cotyledons are represented as scutellum in the monocots. Here is the coleoptile. As you know, in monocots the leaf arise laterally, means leaf will arise in this direction. That's why the coleoptile is present in lateral side, whereas here which you see that plumule, means coleoptile is the covering of plumule and coleorhiza is the covering of radicle. So here coleoptile prevents the shoot apex. Shoot apex means this will further get converted into the shoot part. That's why we can say coleoptile is the protecting covering of plumule and coleorhiza is the protecting covering of radicle. Means inside the seed they are present as coleoptile and coleorhiza, but when the seeds start developing, means embryogenesis occur, then the coleorhiza and coleoptile gradually get degenerated as the shoot apex get grow and the root apex get grow. So here I have told you that scutellum, which is represent the cotyledons. Then this is coleoptile, which is the protecting covering of shoot apex. Here is the epiblast. Epiblast is the part which protects the shoot apex, and it have also some nutrients that provides to the embryo. Next, this is radicle, which represent the root, and this is root cap, which protects the root from external injury. Here you can see this part is called, in dicot embryo, this part is called as hypocotyle. You know what is hypocotyle? There is a embryonal axis is present between the cotyledons. So the part above the embryonal axis is called as epicotyle, and the part that present below the embryonal axis is called as hypocotyle. So we can say that the lower part is called hypocotyle, whereas the upper part is called as the epicotyle. So these are the different parts of the embryo and the process of embryogenesis. Next topic is we will study now, that is seed. We will study about seed as we are studying about post fertilization events. So here we see that how embryogenesis process occur. Now we will continue seed. As we know, seed is the last product of fertilization. As you know, seed, it is the last product of fertilization. conserves or stores the future embryo. It stores the future embryo. How do you know? Because for a plant we always sow a seed. That's why we can say that it conserves the embryo inside it. Then we can say that some seeds are present inside the fruit. Majority of seeds are present inside the fruit, whereas some seeds are present outside the fruit. This is exception only in case of cashew. You know about cashew, which is you add in kheer or any other dishes for making laddus, etc. That is cashew. In cashew, the seed is outside the fruit. So, what are the importance of these seeds? What are its different parts? We will know about these seeds in details. Clear, students? So, if this is a seed, then this is its outer coat, which is called as seed coat. And as we know, inside the seed there is presence of radicle and plumule, which will grow further, and this is the endosperm. Sometimes, like in case of fruits, we have studied embryogenesis, that some are endospermous or some are non-endospermous. In case of seed, we can also divide the seed into two types, means whether it is albuminous or non-albuminous. Seeds are of two types. One is albuminous and another is non-albuminous. Like endospermous and non-endospermous, in albuminous seeds, the albumin or the endosperm remains for a long time period, and in non-albuminous seeds, the endosperm or albumin is get completely consumed. So, how can we define this? In non-albuminous, the leguminous plants are come. Leguminous means the pulses type of crops. Pulses means dark, as they are dicots. So simply, albuminous represent again monocots and non-albuminous represent the dicots. As in dicots, the albumin is completely consumed, so this is non-albuminous, whereas in monocots, the albumin remains. That's why we can say that albuminous seeds have residual endosperm, whereas non-albuminous seed has no residual endosperm. Here we can say that residual endosperm, and here no residual endosperm. This is exactly like endospermous and non-endospermous. So you can write the differences between albuminous and non-albuminous seeds. Here I want to give you an example. Sometimes the remnants of nucellus persist throughout the life. Means, as I have told you, that the nucellus get completely consumed. Clear? But sometimes in some seeds, the nucellus remains completely throughout, or persists throughout the life. And the examples are black pepper and beet. Clear, students? Examples are black pepper and beet. These are the seeds in which residual nucellus is persists throughout the life. The residual nucellus persists throughout the life, which is called as perisperm. This is called as perisperm. Clear, students? So, if the question will come, what is perisperm? Then you can write, in some seeds, the residual nucellus is persist throughout the life, and this is called as perisperm. This is the definition of perisperm. Means, if the residual nucellus or if the nucellus persists throughout the life in any seed. And the example, this will come in your board exams. Give two examples of the seed who shows perisperm. So you can write black pepper and beet. So students, this is about seed. Next we will show that dormancy. As we know, dormancy is inactive condition in seed. Inactive condition in seed. Inactive means when there is no metabolic activity occur in the seed. Different seeds have different dormancy time period, means they have go through inactive period for many times. As you know that your mother keep which you say gram and pulses in containers for long time, means chole rajma you are eating, they are seeds and they have a long dormancy period, means the seeds have no growth occurs. But when we add these seeds in water, they get swell up, and when we put these in soil, then they grow up, means till they have present or they stores the embryo in them. So that period means the seed after formation of seed till its germination, that is called as dormancy, or dormancy is the inactive condition in seed when there is no metabolic activity occurs in the seed, means the seed will remains for inactive time period for many times till it is not get the appropriate condition to go through the process of embryogenesis, means when it gets proper temperature and water, then it will start germinating. Before this, it is called as dormancy. Here many examples are found to be, seeds have shown their dormancy time period. Even some seeds show their dormancy time period up to 10,000 years. Here you can see the example in your NCERT book when you self-study. Then you can find some seeds show a long time dormancy in them. Like one example is Lupinus acticus. Lupinus acticus. Lupinus acticus is the seed which have a long term dormancy that can persist its dormancy, or it can persist its dormancy up to 2000 years. Up to 2000 years. So this is one example, and as I have gave you some more examples that how that how some other seeds also persist their time period or dormancy for a long period. So we can say here Lupinus acticus 10,000 years, and that is discovered from the or found from the Dead Sea. You know about Dead Sea. In that region, it is found that its dormancy is up to 10,000 years. Means after 10,000 years of the seed formation, that seed again able to grow as a new plant. This is called as seed. Clear, students? This is called as seed dormancy. We will study about more in next class. So for now, you just remember that what is dormancy. Dormancy is the inactive condition, and different seeds show different dormancy time period. So students, next let's see about fruit. What is the importance of fruit and when the fruit is formed? As we know that the ovary get converted into fruit and the ovule get converted into seed. We will study about fruit. Ovary converted into fruit, whereas ovule converted into seed. So the fruits are also of different types. One is your true fruit, one is your false fruit, and one is your parthenocarpic fruit. Parthenocarpic fruit. So students, let's see what is true fruit. True fruit means the fruit which grows from the ovary. Means if the ovary grows as fruit, then it is called as true fruit. Here ovary grows as fruit. Here you can take the example of mango, coconut, etc. etc. All the maximum seeds are maximum fruits are true fruits. Next, false fruit. False fruit means when the thalamus, here ovary grows as ovary grows as fruit, so it is called as true fruit. In false fruit, the thalamus grows as fruit. So in which fruits you know that, or you can see you are eating the thalamus. You know about apple and strawberry. Apple and strawberry. Apple and strawberry are come under false fruit as the thalamus get converted into fruit. Thalamus is the part on which ovary attached. So this part get converted into fruit and the ovary get reduced, and inside the ovary the seed is present. Clear, students? And we can also take the example of cashew, which I have told in the last topic, that in case of cashew the fruit is looks like this. This is the fruit and this is its seed. This is a cashew seed. You can see this seed. This is leaf. This is the fruit. This is the fruit and this part is the seed. Means seed is outside. And here this part is also thalamus. So here we can know that which fruits are called as false fruit. The false fruit is your apple, strawberry and cashew. Whereas the true fruits are many of the fruits which we eat like mango, coconut. Clear? They are true fruits. Next, parthenocarpic fruit. Parthenocarpic fruit means if fruit formation occurs without fertilization. You know that the fruit is a result of fertilization. Means without fertilization fruit can be formed. But here in case of parthenocarpic fruit, the exception is here fruit is formed. And that fruit is formed from the ovary but without fertilization. So this type of fruit is called as parthenocarpic fruit. Means formation of fruit without fertilization. You can take the best example for parthenocarpic is your banana. The banana which you eat is parthenocarpically grow, means without fertilization, but still it grows from its ovary. Grows from its ovary. So we can say that banana is a true fruit as it is grows from ovary, but it is considered in parthenocarpic. Why? As here no fertilization occurs. Clear, student? So for today this is all about your fruit. We will know some more things about fruit in our next class.